to give everybody the time to dial in. So I hope you can at least enjoy the picture of the globe. Then you can say, okay, where am I? And so on and so forth. So you can play your own game for the upcoming 2 minutes. I assume you are not in the white part above. Otherwise, we would like to know if you raise your hand. You said, okay, I'm on the North Pole. I think everyone would like to know that you are on the North Pole or at the South Pole. So that could also be. So just a few seconds. Let's see. People are still dialing in. Okay, so I think we are more or less. Yeah. Okay, so we start. So again, welcome everybody, wherever you are. My name is Hans Tesla. I'm the Executive Director of BIAN. And today I'm joined by two representatives of our training partners. So it's Nish from CCNC Solution, and it's Patrick from Manufacturing. And what we want to guide you to today is what we have done with the new training. We completely renewed the training. We have additional trainings. Of course, we also have a lot of new content in our models that need more explanation. So that is the aim. So we are not going to train you, but we're going to tell you what there is to train and how are we doing it. So you see here the agenda. So we explain what's in the training, how it will work, how we will do certification, and we end with a Q&A. So if we can go to the next slide, then so not everybody knows exactly what BIAN is doing. So on the next slide, you will see our mission statement. So our mission statement is created in 2008. So that's when we started, and it's all about improving the interoperability in the bank or solving the integration issues. And when we started in 2008, it was all about how do I add additional functionality to my existing IT environment. Several years later, it was all how do I integrate with the outside world. So we moved into our API world. So as of today, we have 259 pre-built APIs, Swag and microservice code, and our API environment is open for everybody. So we have hundreds of thousands of downloads. So if you are looking for standardized APIs, please take a look at our API portal. But we cannot do it by ourselves. So can you go back, Patrick? So so we need the members to collaborate. So we have different types of working groups, and the working groups are populated by the members. So the members are leading banks, technology provider, fintechs, academics, and so on and so forth. And together with these groups that participating in working groups, we create the content. And now on the next slide, you will see the logos of the member financial institutions, and you will see it's from all around the globe. So ABSA is in South Africa. We have Vietnam International Bank. We have Wells Fargo in the US. We have Poland. We have Latin America, Asia Pac. So it's a genuine global environment and general global ecosystem that creates the materials. So on the next slide, you see the first part of our what we call the partners. So the solution providers, the integrators, the consultancies. You see a lot of familiar names and you see a lot of less familiar names, but again, they bring in their specific knowledge because banks know how to do banking, integrators know how to integrate, solution providers know how to create software, and so on and so forth. So the combination of banking knowledge and let's say the overall IT knowledge makes our model robust. And this is the second part. And on the next slide, you will see our partners. So we do have 4 academic partners that we do an occasional project with. And in the middle layer, you see the standard bodies in our industry that we have an agreement with in place. So the agreement implies that we can use their materials and they can use our materials, so we don't invent wheels that already exist. Our primary focus is ISO 20022. So we try to align as much as possible to ISO 20022. So this is more or less picturing the scene. This is where we are. Status started in 2008, it's now 2026. So we have a long history, and that also our models mature over time. And in this day and age, with AI, it is even changing faster. So that is my intro. So now I hand over to Nish. Or I can also do this one. So we have our what we call learning pillar. So you see here the numbers. We have new trainings and certifications on its way. We are also very much aware of that. The success of adopting BIAN is not only if the architects are enthusiastic or the developers are enthusiastic, but also the C-level should be enthusiastic. So that's why we also included a new awareness session. So here you see how it all fits together. So we have a 4-hour business value benefits for C-level decision makers. Then we have the new foundation training. It used to be 2 days, is 1 day, and then we have on the right-hand side the different practitioners trainings. So we have the architecture practitioner, the solution architect, the data architect, and the business transformation practitioner is more or less the consultant, the enterprise architect, and so on and so forth. So this is the new setup. And to make life a little bit easier, we also just launched an e-learning for the foundation training, because until today it was very difficult for us to accommodate individuals. This foundation training will provide you the same content. You can do it in your own pace, and of course you can also after the training do a certification. So Patrick is in a hurry, so I'm also speed up a little bit. So we have 3 books so far. So we have the foundation book on the left-hand side. Then we have the foundation book in the middle. So it's the same content in Chinese on special request of the Chinese financial industry. And then we have for the data architects the business object modeling book. Okay, Patrick. Now I hand over to Nish.
Thank you, Hans, and hi, everybody. It's great to see the level of interest that's been shown in this revamped set of BIAN trainings. So before we go into the detail, it's always important just to reconnect with the why. Why BIAN, why get trained, why is this so important? And the short answer is, BIAN has never been more important, right? So the challenges in the financial services industry today are far greater than they ever have been. It's only going to get more challenging. And on the screen, you'll see a number of sound bites that have been gathered together from very credible sources of surveys and research. And if you just look at some of these that sort of leap out, 76% of banks build the same capability more than once. I'm sure that resonates with those of you who are listening to this, right? A number of duplicated capabilities that exist within the bank. Another one is that more than 10% of revenue is spent on regulatory compliance, which is, a huge percentage of your revenue being diverted to something that's really just keeping the lights on. And my personal favorite, the scariest stat is that over 80% of investment is spent on legacy technology. And that's simply because it's easier to just keep bolting on to what you already have than to move to sort of a composable, future-ready architecture. And the reason for that is it's just very hard to know what that looks like. It's, people look around, they say, have we got something defined? Usually the answer is no. So the simplest and quickest thing is kick the can down the road, just keep kind of sweating your existing assets and build on what you have. And this is really where BIAN comes in. Every one of these challenges stems from a common set of root causes, and it comes down to not having a good architecture. And banking as a industry compared to a lot of other industries, has suffered from the lack of a common language and a common model that would allow banks to describe their capabilities and then to be able to actually define target states and move towards them with confidence. And that's exactly what BIAN brings. So as you look at this slide, it is really important as you take this away and look at BIAN in your own banks, be really clear. There are some very, very sort of prevalent challenges that are facing banks today, and the option to do nothing is no longer feasible, right? Thank you, Patrick. So why did we revamp the training? It's really because as we said, the need for BIAN has now gone way beyond just, hey, it's an architecture and it's something that the architects deal with. This is clearly now spreading like wildfire throughout the industry. The adoption is gathering momentum, and it's not just within the architect role. It's across the bank, right? So if you look at your business roles, you look at your product owners, business analysts. And then even on the technology side, you still have, beyond architects, you've got your designers, your engineers, your operations, your testers. This is really a sort of a whole of bank sort of transformation and mindset, not just a blueprint on a page. So the rationale behind revamping this was, how do we make the BIAN training as relevant and accessible for the various roles as possible? And to do that, what we've done is taken the foundational aspects that everyone needs to know and put that into the foundation, the new foundation course, which is what we're talking about today. So if you think about the fundamentals, if you think about, without going into huge amounts of detail into the technicalities, what does everyone need to know about BIAN? And how can I learn that as quickly and effectively as possible? That's what this new revamped foundation course is. So some of the changes are that it's now 1 day in duration. So it's much easier to take the time off and actually focus on learning the fundamentals. It is for all roles, not just architects, as I mentioned earlier, right? Product owners, business analysts, engineers, we've data modelers, etc. Basically, if you're doing BIAN, this is the course to start with. We've also introduced in the training a very important property of BIAN that has been around for a long time, but hasn't really made its way into the training effectively, and that is talking about attribution. So anyone in the bank who's talking about BIAN and talking about benefits, you need to be able to link this architecture to the outcomes that the bank cares about. So whether that be your revenue, whether it be your risk and your control gaps, or your compliance incidents, or your cost, or your people, you can overlay any attribution that you can think of, all the way from the top of your strategy down to the minutiae of your run and operations, onto BIAN. And that gives you a tremendous canvas on which to measure, on which to make decisions, and steer the enterprise. So that concept is really drawn out like never before in this new course. We also have a case study that has been introduced, a very accessible case study that takes the trainee through the sort of build out of a BIAN scenario and the application of the concepts. And that same case study kind of carries its way through some of the subsequent courses that Hans showed on the screen earlier. So going from the foundation into your kind of practitioner level courses, that theme is kind of kept through many of them. And of course, it goes without saying, the certification has been realigned to the new 1 day foundation course. So when you undertake this version of the course, you will undertake the corresponding version of the certification exam should you choose to pursue certification. Thanks, Patrick. So we'll now step through the course agenda and give you sort of a guided tour of what's in the course. But before I do that, I'll just kind of lay out the fact that it's broken up into 2 parts, and these 2 parts build on each other. So part 1 is really about answering, why BIAN? Why does it exist? What problem does it seek to solve? How does it seek to solve it? Whereas part 2 will go into how the architecture is actually constructed and how you work with it. And then both parts come together in the hands-on case study that is at the end. So I will talk to part one and hand over to my colleague Patrick to talk to part two. So in part one, the sort of goals of BIAN, its why, its mission, its vision, its benefits. These are all laid out very, very clearly, and the same problems will continue to resonate, right? If anything, have become even more urgent. So the current challenges facing the banking industry, the root causes of those, and then how BIAN has evolved and how the composable banking architecture seeks to address these challenges. It also goes into BIAN's principles and approach. So before you get into the detail, just understanding the bigger picture of how BIAN has been put together, the almost cultural shift from process-oriented thinking to capability-based thinking, and the alignment to other standards, because no doubt in any bank you will be aligning to any number of standards in your region. And BIAN is not seeking to replace those or make those obsolete. It absolutely works with other standards. It's almost like a hub that brings these together. We then, in the course, go into how BIAN delivers benefit. So in order to do this, we sort of break the enterprise into its three sort of architecture layers: your business layer, your application and information layer, and then your technology layer. And the training will go through how BIAN applies at each layer and how it delivers the benefit at each layer. And it also ties into KPIs in the bank, right? The three big ones: revenue, cost, and risk. And as I mentioned earlier, the overlay of attribution onto the service landscape. So this section, hugely important, because as you start to roll out BIAN, being really clear on why you're doing it, not just at the beginning, but as time goes on, because as you all know, any long-lasting initiative always comes under scrutiny, and the business case has to be defended. So being really clear on how BIAN delivers that benefit allows you to continue to keep that focus and that justification to stay on that journey. So it's very, very important. As I mentioned, because we're expanding this foundation course to really cover more roles than just architects, there's a section that really starts to talk about how BIAN applies to your kind of role. So it gets you thinking about, whether if you're, say, on the business planning side as a BA or a product owner or an enterprise architect, versus if you're kind of more in the application and information space as a designer, as a data modeler, and versus if you're kind of running the bank and working on the operations and infrastructure. So it very much caters for the fact that we recognize successful BIAN adoption is really about bringing all the roles along into the journey, not just having it be spearheaded by, just your business architect or just your enterprise architect. And so the training will really sort of address that. We also address, how BIAN evolves, right? It is a member-driven standard and architecture. There is a rich collection of working groups. There is a very robust governance process sitting around it. So you'll see the machinery behind how this all comes together. And of course, the intention there is to inspire more participation, right? So once you understand, oh, okay, this is how bits of the standard have evolved, and this is why these decisions were made. The strength of it lies in the collective contribution from banks around the world. And then lastly, the section covers the enormous amount of resources that are at your disposal. People just think, okay, you look at BIAN, you think of maybe the service landscape or a meta model. There's a lot more to it than that. And there's a wealth of resources, both online in the portal, as well as in white papers and books. And of course, the certification process as well. So the training will sort of cover all of that and as part one, and really leave the trainee with a very, very good understanding of the why, who it applies to and how it applies to you, how it evolves, and what resources are available to you to apply it. Having covered that, it will then go into part two. So I'll hand that over to my colleague, Patrick, to walk you through that.
Okay, thank you, Nish, and also from my side, a very warm welcome to this webinar, explaining the content a little bit of the new foundation training course. I'm going to walk you through what you can expect in this foundation training course from a content perspective of the model itself. And the model itself that BIAN did create is actually based on a pattern, a meta model. And what we're going to explain the audience, the participants of such a training is what is actually this meta model. But first of all, we will also explain what are the principles that BIAN is using. And the principles that BIAN is using are actually the principles of agility. So the agile principles, which are typically expressed in 6 principles, and in this foundation training course, we will very briefly explain what these principles actually mean. So this foundation course, in the past, it was a 2-day training course, which means that you cannot expect the same details anymore as in the practitioner training course that we're going to also offer in the future, which means it will give you a high-level understanding, good enough to understand, hey, what is BIAN actually talking about? What is the language that BIAN is using? So that high-level principles is a starting point for component-based development. Component-based development, which means actually BIAN is talking about its fundamental component, which is called the service domain. Now we have to define what is a service domain. And to define what is a service domain, BIAN has created a meta model. It's the model of the model. And to define a service domain, we will need a lot of other concepts that all together make up a service domain. A service domain, a kind of a service center that is offering services, that is expressed in the meta model as service operations. So, but what type of services do we offer? It are always services that we deliver to something. That's the asset type, actually. So we will define what is an asset type, but we will also define, hey, what is it exactly that you're doing? Is there a kind of a pattern in the functionality? We call that a functional pattern. And those basic concepts we're going to explain to be able to create at this moment 326 of these service domain brown boxes. And all these 326 service domain brown boxes, they all look the same. So we bring them together on a diagram. We bring them together on a diagram and we will learn the participants on how to navigate in this service domain landscape. Each time then when the participant is going to click on whatever brown box, whatever service domain, it always looks the same. And it always looks like this. A brown box in the middle, that's a service domain. The yellow boxes surrounded it, that's mostly the data, but also when you see the boxes with the rounded corners, that is the functionality. And all these service domains, they all look at the same. It's quite high level. It's high level, it's at an architecture level. But then, of course, a lot of the participants will say, okay, that's all good, but can you please give me some more detail? And then we will navigate with those people to the more detailed data models. And BIAN has 2 data models. One data model is called the control record model. And a control record model is the data that the service domain is going to create. Is needing actually to be able to fulfill its role. A control record model is a kind of a very limited hierarchical model where we have only 2 levels. The root level is called the control record instance level. And all the other boxes around it, that is called the behavior qualifiers. And we will explain the participants how these behavior qualifiers are created. But when you have 326 brown boxes, which each of these brown boxes, these service domains, they're control record models, these control record models need to be consistent for the whole landscape. To be able to make it consistent for the whole landscape, we are using another model. We call that the business object model. And for each of the service domains, we're going to create a diagram upon which we're going to show, hey, which are the objects that this service domain is responsible for, and which are the objects that the service domain needs to be able to fulfill its role. So we will have white boxes and red boxes, and we will explain the participants how to use it. We will explain the participants that all these diagrams are all based on one and the same pattern, and that is the content model pattern. The content model pattern is, from an architecture perspective, giving us an idea of these are the fundamental data components, and this is how they are related to each other. And what BIAN is then doing for each of the service domains is applying this pattern, and we will show the participants on how this works. When we have defined the service domains, the brown boxes, when we have defined the data, when we have defined the service operations, the services actually, we can also show how these service domains typically fit together. They fit together like a city map through which you can do your journey. This city map is called a wireframe. And with our participants, we're going to show what types of city maps, of wireframes that BIAN is offering at the moment, but is continuously evolving, which means that the participants will be led through the current content of the BIAN, so it can continuously change. But when you have a trainer-led training, then the trainer will go with the participants through all the materials. So we have a city map, we have the wireframes, and once you have a wireframe, you can do your journeys. And a journey, that's called actually a business scenario. And what is a business scenario? A business scenario is an example process for an example business service. And we will also show these different business scenarios, and we will explain that the yellow boxes are actually the service domains, and that the lines between the yellow boxes are the service requests. So a service domain will request services to another service domain, and it will make use of what we call the service operations. And for the people who want to give it a technical construction, for those we can then say, well, our service domains, they are going to have endpoints grouped together into what we call semantic APIs, and then we can move them into the direction of, well, have a look at the examples of the semantic APIs. In this case, it is an example of Swagger format, but we will also have other formats into which we represent these APIs. And so we have the whole flow from that very high level conceptual to that detailed APIs. And then the audience, the participants, will have a feeling. They will have a feeling, what is it all about? How does it fit together? What will they do? What do they not have? That is the detailed understanding of everything. That's not the purpose of this course. The purpose of this course is to have a good idea what are the elements and how these fit together. And now I'm going to hand over to Nish again to explain a little bit more about the format.
Thank you, Patrick. So in keeping with the desire to make this training as accessible as possible for all roles, we have also made it more flexible than ever in terms of how you can engage with this training. So for the first time, we've now got three modalities, three formats or deliveries. The first is the instructor-led training, which is provided by a certified BIAN accredited training organization. This is with a human training you, a certified trainer, and that can either be done virtually or in person, depending on where you are and whether your organization is co-located or remote. All trainers are certified and accredited. They can address the how, the why, the what about BIAN, and it's a very interactive format. There will be the opportunity for group discussion and real-time Q&A. And this is ideal for cohorts and teams who benefit from the group dynamics and also desire direct access to a practitioner. The second modality is the e-learning format, which is the same high quality foundation training that we've been talking about, but now delivered in a self-paced e-learning format that a trainee can access and watch when they want, wherever they are, at the pace they want. And this, of course, makes it super flexible to, for those who need to do it at their own pace. Maybe they don't need to sit in a group. They might want to stagger it over a few days or weeks. So for the first time, that option is available. And of course, the self-study. So being able to request, purchase the course materials, go through that yourself, go through the book, and sit the practice questions, and then basically pick up this knowledge yourself, right? So the options are all there. And so you'll find more information on the BIAN site, but this is one of the changes that has been brought about. Thanks, Patrick. We'll jump to the next slide. As we mentioned, there is a revamped certification as well that comes with this. It is still following the same format. So if you've been familiar with the previous, you will be familiar with this. There will be multiple choice questions, fixed duration, a pass mark, and it is a closed book exam. And so the only difference is that the certification exam itself has been realigned to the new one-day course. And therefore, the questions will, of course, cover the topics that are being learned in this new one-day course. Thanks, Patrick. So with that, I will hand back to Hans to wrap us up, and we're going to have plenty of time for Q&A, which is great.
Okay, well, thank you, everybody. I think this was extremely clear. So thanks, Patrick and Nish, for explaining the content of the training. As stated at the start, we are not going to train you here, but we're going to give you an insight in how it looks like and what's in it for you. So, of course, it's also my role to advocate for the BIAN organization itself. So here you see the membership fees. So if you are not a member yet and you want to become a member, these are the fees. They are annual fees and they are flat fees. So there is no limitation on the number of people you want to give access, participate in working groups, and so on and so forth. I think it's also good to underline that these fees are set at the start of BIAN in 2008. So you're looking, in essence, at the 2008 price list. So you can also ask yourself the question, where on the world can I buy something in 2026 for the price out of 2008? Well, that is at BIAN. So take your chance and to get a bargain. I think that's what I would say. So if we go to the next slide, we are open for questions. So there is a question button below Q&A, and if you do so, we will try to answer them and see who is applicable for answer. If everything goes as we hope, we don't have enough time to answer all the questions, so we will write them down, and for everybody who signed up, we will make the slide deck available, we make the recording available, and we make the Q&A available. So don't hesitate, and please share with us your questions that just can't wait. Let me see here in the questions. So far, the questions are answered. Maybe I saw, Maurits, you answered the questions so far. Maybe you can just recap what the questions are about and what your answer is. Just summarize it a little bit.
Yeah, sure thing. Hi everyone, I'm Maurits van der Plas van haar Learning Solutions, the certification partner of BIAN. So we got some questions about the follow-up certifications. So if you're currently BIAN Foundation certified and you want to continue your learning journey, your learning path, what should you do? Is there a specific path? So the current foundation exam is the third version of the foundation exam. We have a versioning table, which we will share with you. If you have done the previous exam, for example, version 2, you can still follow or go to any of the practitioner courses. So you can reach out to your accredited education partner, such as CCNC or Envision, or reach out to info@bian.org to get a recommended training partner. And they can help you with any of the practitioner courses. Patrick put them here on the screen. So the idea is that you first do the foundation course, and then you can follow any of the follow-up practitioner courses, such as the architecture practitioner course, the data architecture practitioner course, and the solution design course and the business transformation course are in production. Then let me go to the So then regarding the e-learning and what is now currently available in Spanish, the version 2 material is currently available in Spanish. Again, you can find there are training partners that can help you in the Latin American region. Again, reach out to info@bian.org for more information. There was a question if the e-learning is already available in Spanish. It is not currently. We are exploring if that is necessary, but there is enough learning material available and there are Spanish training providers. Then what is the process to get BIAN training for individual persons from Ashok? Hans, I just continue or?
Please do.
So what is the process to get BIAN training for individuals? There are several training partners, accredited education partners. You can go to the BIAN or Van Haren website to find these training partners. Patrick Derde is here from Envision, and there's also Nishan here from CCNC. They are accredited education partners, so you can go to them and ask them for individual training. You can also reach out to BIAN, but specifically for individual training, reach out to an accredited education partner, or there's indeed the e-learning option now available if you are in a hard-to-reach region and there's less individual training options for you. So there's a question here about, I'll just go through the questions about the certification. So then the other questions I leave open. Yeah, so Juan Vargas, I think we know him. Hi, Juan. So you ask, I went for recertification last year. Do I have to recertify again? For the version of the second edition of the book? No. So if you the Foundation 2 exam, if you recently got certified, as long as the validity of that exam is applicable, it remains applicable. And as mentioned before, you can go for the follow-up certification courses. From July this year, we will stop selling the BIAN Foundation version 2, so the previous exams. If you have booked a training course before, or if you still have an exam voucher that you have purchased before then, it will remain valid for a full year, or you can access it for a full year. If you then pass, the certification remains valid for the full validity termination. So that's another 2 years. So in the extreme scenario that you purchase a exam voucher at the last day of July, and you then certify a year later, you're still valid for 2 more years. Anyway, the version 2, so they here present the version 3 certification is now also available. So you can also directly go for the version 3 exam. And that is what we recommend for people now starting. But the version 2 remains, if you have an exam voucher, you can still execute it. Yeah, I hope I answered the question and that I don't make it too complex or stumble over my own words. Do I need to be a BIAN member to get certified? No, you don't. So BIAN members do get a discount. You can reach out to info@vanharen.org to get your member discount. There they will check if you are working for a BIAN member and are applicable to get the member discount. But anyone can do their BIAN certification. And as Nishan mentioned before, for the foundation certification, you can either do it through self-study, e-learning, or accredited training course. For the practitioner courses, I think this is quite relevant because maybe it's not been mentioned before. To be certified in a practitioner course, you need to go to an accredited education partner. So only the accredited education partners can give you a course, and therefore you can get certified in a practitioner exam. This is because the exam will now include a case study. Sorry, not the exam, but the course will include a case study, and their practitioner certifications. So they show that you have practitioner know-how, and therefore we require you to go to an actual course because you cannot get these practical skills by reading from a book. Yeah. Patrick, Hans, Nissan, please tell me if I'm not clear or stumble.
No, it's
Oh, you're
okay.
doing well.
Okay,
No, it's
thanks.
perfect.
There's
It's
also a
all in the
question.
details, right? Yeah.
There's also a question about if someone can use the previous voucher for the new exam.
Good question. Currently, the current voucher are applicable to the current exams. If you would like to have this, yes, we can do it. So we can, in theory, we can transfer your version 2 foundation exam to the version 3 foundation exam. However, if you have a version 2 foundation exam, and I assume you have done a version 2 training course, I would personally recommend you to do that exam because that is the training course that you have experienced, and it gives you the same, let's say, rights and abilities as the version 3 foundation exam does. So it might be more easy for yourself to just stick to that exam. You won't be disadvantaged by doing the foundation 2 exam. If you, however, prefer to have the version 3, you can update it. Please email to solutions@vanharen.net. Include the voucher code that you have and ask if we can revise it to the version 3 of the exam. Again, there's no real reason for you to do so. You can perfectly fine move forward with your version 2 exam. The changes of the courses, of the foundation courses, which Nishan explained, are more to make it more accessible for everybody that gets involved with BIAN. So the version 2 foundation exam was already more for architects. And the new exam is a broader perspective. So it's for a wider audience. But if you did a version 2 exam and you are an architect and you want to follow this learning path, there's no issue. You can keep the version 2 exam.
Okay. And there is a question about the fee for the foundation course.
Yeah, so the foundation course, they are at an expense. So to do the in-person training, you can reach out to one of the accredited education partners or reach out to info@bian.org, and they can connect you to any of the training partners, and it is at an expense. Or you can do it via self-study. It's slightly cheaper, but you get less worldly experience from the experts. But that is also an option. But yes, the course is at an expense.
Okay. So I don't see any questions that we did not answer. There was a question, but it's disappeared when I was trying to type the answer. So there was someone said, I am doing an MBA in IT. Where can I find additional information? You can find the additional information at BIAN.org homepage, case studies, and you will find all the available material at BIAN.org. So
Yeah,
we
there's
have
here
that.
one
Yeah.
about, it's a bit harder. Is there a restriction on professionals and partners due to specific and highly regulated legislation in
Yeah.
Brazil?
Shall I answer that question?
Yeah, please. Yeah.
So what we do, Romulo, is that the BIAN model should be applicable all around the globe, so to all the jurisdictions. So there will be Brazil is highly regulated, but so is Australia and so is South Africa. So we, in our definition, we stop at let's say a level of communality. So our model is applicable all around the globe, and specific regulatory needs should be filtered by yourself. We identify in the model all the functions that you need for compliancy, but we explain in our model what you need to do, but we are not explaining in the model how you need to do it. So the how is on your side, and that, of course, changes from region to region, from legislation to legislation. So, and in a similar manner, we built our data model, our business object model. So it stops at a generic level. And if you want to know what are the additions needed in your example in Brazil, then we have hyperlinks to the ISO 20022 database, where you can find for your region the additional information that you need to provide. So for us, we stop at the level that's applicable around the globe. I hope that answers your question. Okay. So don't be shy. There are no such thing as stupid questions. There are only stupid answers. So
while we wait for more questions, I might just build on what you've just said there, Hans. And this is something the foundation course will lay a good groundwork for, but which the practitioner courses will take further. When you think about BIAN, it is at a semantic level. It's very conceptual, right? But in doing so, it is applicable, as Hans said. Banking is banking, right? Wherever in the world you are. The detail may differ, the implementation may differ, but the concepts of banking remain the same. BIAN extends in two ways. You can extend BIAN in terms of its service domains and identify service domains that maybe no one has thought of yet. You may have some unique products or other offerings that haven't quite been captured in the model, and BIAN is perfectly capable of being extended. The training will give you the guardrails on how to do that extension safely so that you don't violate the patterns and lose the benefit of BIAN, that agility that Patrick spoke of earlier, and the kind of elemental capability and the mutual exclusivity and things like that. So the training is very good at setting you up for that. The other dimension in which BIAN gets extended is as you add detail, as you go from the conceptual to the logical to the physical, and then you implement. As you go into those levels of detail, you make a lot of decisions as well. And BIAN has traditionally steered clear of telling you how to do something. So if you've got a particular service domain, let's say you have to do a credit decisioning, you can do that on paper, right? You can actually run the entire bank on bits of paper that are being exchanged by humans, all the way through to very sophisticated machine learning and AI models and fully automated solutions and things like that. So BIAN doesn't, it remains agnostic of that level of detail. But again, the training will equip you with what are the principles you need to keep in mind as you go into those levels of detail. And this is where you start to kind of transition from that, learning the theory and getting grounded on the kind of almost the rules of the standard to the practical implementation. And that becomes the journey that you take. But the courses and this new kind of course structure with the foundation followed by the practitioner creates an excellent grounding no matter which way you're going, whether you're focused on the enterprise architecture track, the data practitioner track, the solution design practitioner track, and then coming later this year, the business transformation practitioner track as well. So I just thought I'd add that bit of color while we wait for more questions to come through.
Okay. I don't see any new questions arising.
We do have a couple more. We've got Romulo. Yeah, did you want to go through them, Moritz?
If you can do the first from Romulo.
Okay, from Romulo, I missed discussions about frameworks, especially in the financial market. TOGAF and COBIT are the closest I know to integrating strategy and governance with IT. Could you elaborate on that? So yes, there are others. I'll start with this. I'm sure others will add. There are other frameworks. BIAN does not seek to displace any of them. So if you consider things like IT for IT and COBIT, TOGAF, they all do focus. They've got slightly different focuses. The point of BIAN is to provide you with a description of banking capabilities and to give you a framework in how these capabilities interact such that there is consistency between capabilities, your data, and your interactions, your APIs. And it's also there to make sure that you don't have tightly coupled capabilities and that you don't have overlapping capabilities. The tight coupling and the overlapping are probably the two biggest root causes of banking complexity and expense today. And where BIAN really excels is in untangling that and providing a content model in which every banking capability you can conceive of, and every banking data object you can conceive of, and every banking service or interaction or API that you can conceive of has been described in a sufficient level of detail that a bank can pick it up and apply it to their unique enterprise and begin to implement it. So in terms, so my part of the answer to this is, if you're using TOGAF, if you're using IT for IT, and some of these other standards, you absolutely can work with BIAN. It doesn't conflict or replace them. I don't know if any of my colleagues want to add to that.
Yeah, I want to add something on this. That is that BIAN should be seen as the foundation of the things that needs to be done. When you look into TOGAF, for example, then TOGAF has a content framework. And that content framework is focusing on the type of content. And the type of content that is about services and capabilities and processes and so on. And BIAN is actually aligned on that. So when BIAN is talking about a capability, it's the same meaning. If BIAN is talking about a business scenario, well, that's the process. If BIAN is talking about the data, for example, that's the same meaning. So at that part, TOGAF, BIAN gives the content based on the type of content, completely aligned with TOGAF. You can also say completely aligned, and it is even more aligned with Archimate. BIAN is using that Archimate language. So we are making use of the Archimate language to express our own model. Then we have the link with COBIT. COBIT is a governance framework. But what are you going to govern? Well, BIAN will give you the type of elements that you're going to govern. You govern your capabilities, but that's actually meaningless. What are you going to govern? You're going to govern the processes, the data within these capabilities. And this, again, BIAN is actually the foundation content that will be used in context with all the other frameworks and so on.
Okay, thank you, Patrick. So I will answer the last question before we wave goodbye. So there is a question about does blockchain, decentralized ledger, and central bank digital currency are covered in the BIAN framework. So a blockchain for us is a channel. So that is for us. It doesn't matter if you do it by ISO 20022, the payment through blockchain. Decentralized ledgers is a sort of similar approach. So we have, of course, our ledger update service domains, but where they are and how they are, for us, that's a physical implementation. The central bank digital currencies is again a currency. So it could be US dollars, it could be euros, or it could be CBDCs. So yes, it's covered in the framework, but not specifically. So we are not naming them because they are part of the existing ecosystem that we are aligning to. So I hope this answers your question. So the model is, let's say, agnostic from those subjects, similar as we are agnostic from technology. And so we don't care if you run your solutions on a mainframe or in the cloud or client server and whatever language and whatever database management system. So we try to be agnostic as possible to make the model, let's say, as widely applicable as possible. Okay, I think there is one hidden. So yeah, and the last question then, and that's an important one, are we aligned with AI integration? Now, AI integration is, of course, let's say, a sort of container question. So what we're doing several things in BIAN as we speak. So we are identifying which of the service domain, the functions, could play a role in your AI usage. So if you want to give an answer to one of your customers, which are the service domains involved? So are they, let's say, subject to AI? The other thing what we are doing is we are in the process of making our model what we call AI ready. And AI ready has all to do that we did a proof of concept November last year. We published it, and it's to look at how can we, first of all, can we, and then the question is how, maybe generate MCP agents out of a service domain. And then can we link those MCP agents into a process / an application? If we want to do that, then we need to add much more detailed content to the model. So we are in the process, so we are capable of doing it for 3 service domains, just so we prove we can do it. But if we want to, let's say, make the model implementable by using AI, yeah, there is still a lot of work to do, and we hope at the end of 26 we can give you a little bit more insight. So there are several things. Yes, we are identifying what are the functions that can be touched by AI and how can we make the BIAN model AI ready. So we are just past the hour. I would like to thank Patrick, Nish, and Maurits for the participation and answering the question. I would also thank Yvonne for organizing it and make sure everybody gets the invite, and also afterwards make sure that everybody who signed up gets the recording, the slides, and the questions, if not answers. So for me, thank you very, very much again for your participation, and we are looking forward to meet you at the next occasion, whatever that may be, a webinar, but I also hope in person. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Take care.